So we're hearing a lot about the subject of short pays. What I'll do is I'll give a short definition of a short pay, and if you could tell me what your thoughts on that, that'd be great. For those of you who don't know what a short pay is, it's basically when when amount is owed to a lender on a property and they end up accepting a short payment for that loan because of a default. So in other words, if the lender's owed $500,000, for example, but the value of the home is a lot less, a lot of times the lender will be open to accepting a short payment or less than the balance that's owed. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
In terms of the people selling the home,
Mm-hmm.
they got to weigh the decision. Do I take a foreclosure and ruin my credit for 10 years, or do I take the short pay and you're going to get issued a 1099 for the amount of money that the bank lost? So you have to weigh which one you can live with.
That's true. Which one's the...
I mean, which do I do? Do I have a tax bill, or do I ruin my credit for the next decade?
Sure.
Or do I work out a deal with the bank where that doesn't happen? I mean,
Yeah, I was going to point out there's several options. One of them obviously is to do a short pay. And it's actually a fairly simple process. It can be a little challenging, but once...
Patience.
It takes a lot of patience, but when you have an agent that's experienced with it and that's done it quite a few times, it's basically second nature. It takes a lot of patience, like you said, and what happens is in the short pay process, the bank gets to approve everything, and if they don't approve it, then they don't accept the short pay, and then you're back to square one. And the client can do a lot of different things to avoid foreclosure, because basically if they don't do a short pay or work out some kind of transfer, the home can foreclose, and then, like you said, have a 10-year mark on their credit history.
Yeah. I mean, that short stay is when you really, really need an experienced realtor, because at that point you need a realtor with ethics, so he's not just trying to blow your home out, sell it at a very cheap price just to make his commission. Or you get a realtor who's got some ethics, who's trying to get you the most money possible, so the bank writes off the least possible, and you don't take the biggest hit tax-wise. So, I mean, you can really get hurt bad if you don't have a realtor that's on your side in that case. I mean, you have to really believe in them.
That's true. And what Jeff is explaining, what you're explaining is basically that there could be a tax consequence. It's not 100%, but a majority of the lenders...
We're not an accountant.
What they'll do, yeah, and this is also... you need to verify this information with your accountant, your attorney, and other professionals too. It's very important to do that.
Absolutely.
What happens with the short sale is once it goes through, the lender agrees to do the short sale, but what they do is they claim it as a loss on their taxes, which in turn becomes income for you on your taxes. So in other words, if you're making $50,000 a year and the bank takes a $100,000 loss, they're going to show that as a loss, and on your tax return it's going to show up as income. So you need to discuss the ramifications of that with your attorney, with your accountant, and they can guide you further. Another option that you can do is a deed in lieu of foreclosure, which basically means that you transfer the deed directly to the beneficiary, to the lender, and then they just write off the remainder of the debt. They don't 1099 you, and it's kind of like you just walk away voluntarily.
Yeah, actually a lot of the notes today are actually written like that. In the past, they were not. And the reason, if I'm correct, the reason they were not was before it would take a year to foreclose on somebody. But if the note's written the way it's written now, in lieu of, they can foreclose and get the property in 90 days.
Okay, so that makes sense, because normally the foreclosure process is at least 9 months. It's
Right.
you have 3 months till you get a notice of default, and then you have another 3 months to cure it, and then they have to publish a notice of sale, which usually takes a month or two, and then a lot of times they delay it another
Correct.
month. So from start to finish, you have at least 9 months to figure it out.
And that costs them, depending on the mortgage payment, it's thousands of dollars. They're better off taking the in lieu of, and that's the way notes are written now compared to they were written back in 1990.